It's fair to say that superhero movies are all the rave these days. In 2018 alone, 9 superhero films came out totaling over $8 billion worldwide. It's safe to say that the comic book realm of storytelling has become their own genre in film and television alike. Because of this exploding popularity, quality will slip through the cracks and be lost, hoping to be found and appreciated. Watchmen was released to theaters in March of 2009. Directed by Zack Snyder on a budget of $120 million, the film went on to make $185 million worldwide, an underwhelming number that more or less was not what the studio wanted. Its box office numbers pulled below films such as Paul Blart, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and G-Force.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
The film was largely divided amongst critics, scoring a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes and an even worse 56% on Metacritic. Watchmen is based on the 1986 DC limited comic series from Alan Moore. It's a dark look at an alternate history in the year of 1985 during heightened tensions with Russians during the Cold War. The neo-noir tale follows closely of Rorschach, a masked vigilante investigating the murder of a retired vigilante known as the Comedian.
Incredible that someone so unforgettable fixed it all.
This assassination eventually leads to circumstances that challenges the nature of morality and the meaning of life as a whole. Alan Moore's comic series Watchmen received critical and commercial acclaim when it was first released in 1986. The series placed on Time 100's greatest novels to be released since 1923. Due to this continued praise and success, the rights to a hopeful film were picked up in 1986, only to be developed almost 30 years later in 2005. Alan Moore, who has been publicly vocal against Hollywood, had stated several times that Watchmen couldn't be accurately done on the big screen. However, he did state that the film script, written by David Hayter, was as close to what he had imagined for Watchmen. Director Zack Snyder went to great lengths to properly adapt the graphic novel to the big screen. With a few exceptions, some that even made the overall story better, it's as close of an interpretation to the series as one could imagine. Dave Gibbons, the artist on the Watchmen series, served as the advisor to the film. Without a doubt, Watchmen is one of the heaviest, most dramatic, most gut-punching comic book films, or films in general, one will see. It's incredibly safe to say that this film is not for everyone. At no time is the subject material or Zack Snyder apologetic on the themes it analyzes, including war, Americana, misogyny, rape, violence, politics, crime, and even a bleak look at those figures we idolize. This is not a kid's film and does not hold back at being incredibly malevolent in its look at the previously mentioned ideas. The film's greatest strength, outside its technical accomplishments, are the performances and character portrayals. Rorschach, played brilliantly by Jackie Earle Haley, is the blunt instrument that drives the film forward. His narration, aided by his persistent and even vindictive drive to solving the murder of the comedian, is easily the highlight of the film.
Tonight, a comedian died in New York. Somebody knows why. Somebody knows.
Just as compelling is Billy Crudup's John Osterman, better known as Dr. Manhattan. After a freak accident, John is turned into Dr. Manhattan, the closest thing to a living god among men. He eventually becomes a weapon for the U.S. government and the reason we win the Vietnam War. His polarizing, detached, and simplistic look at humanity often feels as if Alan Moore is hopping on the page, telling us something more about humanity as a whole. And yes, even if you're slightly immature, you might giggle at him being naked for at least half the movie.
Did you really think it would kill me? I have walked across the surface of the sun. I have witnessed events so tiny and so fast, they can hardly be said to have occurred at all. But you, Adrian, are just a man. The world's smartest man poses no more threat to me than does its smartest termite.
A strong mention has to also be given to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, better known for his many bit roles including Negan from The Walking Dead and the Dad from Supernatural. He has a challenging role of Eddie Blake, better known as the Comedian. His character is a vicious and brutal vigilante turned paramilitary. His character is a deep study into amoral values and deep-rooted cynicism. Only one line of dialogue from Morgan comes off a bit too on the nose and riffed off way too easily for how complex of a speech it really is.
She was pregnant. And you gunned her down.
That's right. You know what? You watched me. You could have turned the gun into steam, the bullets into mercury, the bottle into goddamn snowflakes, but you didn't, did you? give a damn about human beings. You're drifting out of touch, Doc.
Convenient.
Watchmen's driving force was and always will be director Zack Snyder. Snyder is at the heat of many fanboy discussions of love and hate. Rarely do you find someone who has mixed things to say. You either love him or you hate him. Without a doubt, Snyder lives and dies by his visual storytelling that can sometimes be nothing short of true brilliance. This can be found in the absolutely gorgeous and well-told opening sequence played wonderfully next to Bob Dylan. Like most strong visual storytellers, at times his style can get away from him. Watchmen feels a bit too cool for its own good sometimes. Slow-mo used in action sequences and hero landings can oftentimes feel a bit out of place for what's trying to be said, but it's kept in check with a terrific world building and the solid understanding of source material. Watchmen is one of the most quotable pieces of media to ever be released. The material can be challenging, even for those with the strongest of guts, and without spoiling it, there is no real happy ending. For all that, the journey and the material's ability to open up avenues of conversation you never thought you'd have are worth the journey.